guitar is a very complex instrument with many fine-tuned and handcrafted pieces that must work together coherently to produce a pleasing sound. Today I'll give a brief overview of the contemporary acoustic guitar, how it works, and how it's capable of producing such savory sonic sounds. First, we'll start at the top of the instrument with what's known as the headstock. The headstock is important because it's one of two anchoring points for the strings. More specifically, it's home of the machine heads, or what's called the tuners. These are important because, as mentioned, they are an anchoring point for the strings that help hold the strings onto the instrument, and they are a tuning mechanism whereby either tightening or loosening these pegs, it tightens or loosens the strings, which changes their pitch. Next, we'll move on to the neck. The neck is the long, straight piece of wood that connects the headstock to the main body of the guitar. The neck, on the back, is just a round, natural piece of wood, nothing special there. But when we move to the top, this is where you see it gets a little interesting. The top of the neck is home to what's called the fretboard. The fretboard is important because it houses these little pieces of metal known as frets, or as musiciansinstitute.edu puts it, quote, "The neck is where the finger movements take place across the strings." Now these frets are very specifically spaced apart in order to give a very specific pitch when a string is held down over them. A lot of math goes into this, and it's just very precise in order to get the exact sound you want. And lastly, we'll move on to the main body of the guitar. Now the body is quite wide, front to back, and this is very important to allow for reverberation and natural amplification of the sound that the strings produce. Now, without strings, a guitar would just be a really weird looking drum. And so the strings are extremely important, as you might know. So when you pluck a string, it vibrates very rapidly, and that creates a sound that's sent into the body through the tone hole of the guitar, which is a very recognizable hole which characterizes most acoustic guitars. Now, when you play, it sends that into the tone hole, it reverberates around, and then it comes back out as a sound we all know. And that's mostly it, except for one more very crucial part that an acoustic guitar cannot live without. It's known as the bridge. The bridge is the second anchoring point on a guitar, just past the tone hole. Now, since the strings are tightened up here at the headstock, it puts a lot of pressure on the bridge down here, which if a bridge is not set and glued down properly, it can come off and hit you in the face. Nobody wants that. So make sure your guitar's bridge is very properly attached to the body of the guitar. Now there are hundreds more aspects to a guitar I could go over, but this is just a brief overview because we could talk about different types of metals, different types of wood, the inclusion of a pickup or an electronic tuner, but obviously we don't have time for that today. And as John Whiteside from North Road Guitars says, quote, "For a first guitar, it would take about 200 hours to build." So, although a guitar is one of the most popular instruments in the world, it seems very simple. A lot of math goes into it, and a lot of behind-the-scenes work that you wouldn't expect from an instrument that looks this simple. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good day.